Kale awoke wrapped in the gentleness of a newborn dawn. The peace of that place was as tangible as the dew resting on the grass, glistening like crystal tears. Soft golden sunlight filtered through the rough fabric of the tent, tracing luminous arabesques on the walls, as if the day itself had come to greet him. The clearing felt like a living sanctuary, its energy pulsing beneath Kale's feet like the slow, generous heart of an ancient land, heavy with secrets and promises. He rose with a vitality that felt almost magical, his spirit as light as a petal carried by the wind, and pushed aside the curtain at the entrance with a breathless eagerness. Outside, the morning air welcomed him like a friendly whisper, carrying the sweet scent of wild herbs mingled with the subtle song of birds waking in the treetops. The two tents nearby remained closed, fabric cocoons guarding the peaceful sleep of Leora and Caius, while Auren stood empty, hinting at the silent trace of a man long used to greeting the day before the others. Kale stretched his arms in a wide arc, his muscles unfurling like threads of a web in the sun, and let his gaze wander across the clearing, a verdant oasis embraced by an army of dark, gnarled trees, ancient sentinels that seemed to whisper Auren's legends in every twist of their trunks. At its center stood Sithra's cabin, rising like the axis of that world, a beacon of simplicity and mystery, now bathed in the clear light that tenderly revealed its contours. In front of him, a well made of gray stones, polished smooth by time, as if caressed by nature itself, stood with a sturdy rope that defied the apparent frailty of its owner. Orchards stretched in quiet harmony, trees bowed under the weight of radiant fruit, apples red as sleeping embers, golden pears that caught the sunlight, and oranges gleaming like tiny suns caught in the branches, alongside other fruits his young eyes couldn't even name. Everything there felt meticulous, the canopies pruned with a care that bordered on maternal, kept low enough to invite even the youngest hands to pluck their treasures. Woven fences of straw and wood marked out a small kingdom of living sounds. Chickens clucked in chorus, pigs grunted in lazy rhythm, and goats bleated melodies that danced in the air like a rustic song. In one corner, a stretch of damp clay mirrored the sky in broken fragments, an improvised lake awaiting hands to shape it. A narrow stream of crystal-clear water curved gently behind it. Farther off, Erebus moved with the elegance of a guardian, herding a small flock of sheep that kept the grass trimmed like an impeccable green mantle. The scene stirred in Kale an echo of home, but for the first time, the longing didn't come laced with shadows. The memory of his parents felt like a golden thread woven into the fabric of new hopes, intertwined with this refuge that now offered itself as home. Near the tent, the staff lay at rest, its wood resonating in harmony with the trees around it, as if exchanging secrets with the forest in a language older than time. Kale picked it up, feeling the warmth of the wood flow through his fingers, and heard Toritha's voice.
"A weapon is your extension, boy."
But this thing did not cut. It sang, the runes etched into it pulsing with a subtle glow, as if they too had missed their bearer. Absorbed in that moment, he didn't notice the figure approaching, and his heart jumped when Auren's voice broke the silence, laced with a rare lightness.
"Brought food,"
he called out, raising the fresh meat of an animal, its fur still speckled with dew that shimmered in the sunlight.
"Yay, I'm coming,"
came a hoarse voice from inside one of the tents. The two exchanged glances and let the laughter flow, a sound that reverberated through the clearing like a breath of life, while Caius wrestled with the tent ropes, entangling himself in the fabric in a clumsy dance of canvas and limbs that inevitably ended where it began, on the ground. The other tent opened slowly, revealing Leora's blue eyes, two jewels gleaming in the half-light.
"But you already started, Caius. At least give me time to get up,"
she said, emerging with a smile still caught in sleep. She wore a simple yet elegant blue dress, a gift from Sithra, that brought out the tone of her eyes the way the sky embraces the sea. As she slipped on her new shoes, she let out a full-bodied yawn, the gesture almost a ritual greeting to the morning. Together, they helped Caius untangle himself, the boy laughing at his own clumsiness, and walked to the cabin, where Sithra waited by the door, her smile wide as a window opening to the dawn.
It's good to have more people around. Solitude is good for the mind, but I'm just an old woman who still needs a bit of human warmth.
She exclaimed, her voice as soft as a breeze through the leaves. Auren chuckled, the deep sound rumbling like the contented purr of a campfire.
If you're just a lonely old lady, Sithra, then I must be just a wanderer. You know it's always a pleasure to be around you.
He replied, resting a hand on her shoulder with affection. They stepped into the cabin, the air thick with the sweet scent of fresh fruit and newly drawn milk, a fragrant promise of renewal. Auren set the meat down on the counter by the hearth, which doubled as an oven, and they all gathered around the table. Breakfast unfolded like a symphony of laughter and flavors, as if they were a long-separated family finally reunited. Satisfied, Sithra took the floor, her voice as melodious as the chime of ancient bells.
All right, children, off you go to explore. I need to speak with Auren, catch up on the news, and plan our next steps. We'll have plenty of time for talks and learning from now on.
Auren grew slightly tense, but he knew Sithra was right. That place was a refuge, a safe nest amidst the world's storms, but time marched on, and beyond those trees, the enemy did not rest. The children, attuned to the almost enchanted tone of the elder, rose and departed, as if guided by an invisible thread. Leora dashed ahead, eyes sparkling with curiosity, eager to greet Erebus, who was herding the sheep in the distance. Caius followed, stumbling and laughing at her energy, while Kale, equally uplifted, walked alongside them with a gentle smile. The wounds on his lips were nearly healed, signs of a body recovering in step with the spirit. The cabin felt like a sanctuary suspended in time, the air thick with the earthy scent of dried herbs hanging from the ceiling like offerings to forgotten gods. The crackling of the hearth danced in harmony with the whispering wind slipping through the cracks, while timid golden rays pierced the fogged windows, painting the wooden table with a glow that seemed alive. Sithra, with the serene presence of an ancient priestess, fixed her gaze on Auren, green eyes bearing the weight of ages, as deep as abysses where the past still echoed. He, restless, tapped his fingers on the rough wood, his face lined by the storm that raged within his chest. The children's laughter still lingered in the air when Sithra lowered her voice.
Tell me, Auren,
she said, her voice now heavy with foreboding, like thunder rumbling before the rain. Auren drew a deep breath, the air entering his lungs as if burdened with the weight of all the fates now intertwined. He told her everything, each detail unraveling like threads from an ancient tapestry, the recent events, the story whispered by the children during their journey, every word a brushstroke painting chaos and hope in his mind. Sithra's eyes sparkled with intensity at each new layer of the tale, worried and unblinking, as if she feared that a single moment of inattention might steal the essence of the truth. When he finished, his voice rose unconsciously, betraying his anguish.
I don't know how we're going to do this, Sithra. He's far too young, he's not ready.
Sithra tilted her head, her silver hair falling like strands of moonlight over her shoulders, and replied with the calm of someone who had seen mountains rise and crumble.
Time does not forget, nor is it lost or rushed. It only dances to the rhythm of fate. And when time calls, it's because the future has already arrived.
She recited, the words of an ancient guardian poem flowing like an eternal river. Auren's stern expression shifted, the meaning striking him like lightning slicing through the dark.
He is here. He brought the staff, and Lasara is with him,
she concluded, her voice steady as a beacon guiding the lost through the fog.
I'm glad you're here, old friend. I don't know how I'd do this without you.
He replied, gratitude laced with a rare vulnerability. She smiled, a knowing smile, as if it carried the secrets of the stars.
Oh, come now, don't get all sentimental. I'm just an old reminder of what still needs doing. If it weren't me, it would be someone else. You know how this works. My time ran out years ago, but I still have a mission to finish, and I will.
She said, her light tone trying to spark courage in his heart.
I'll have to disagree with you this time, my friend. I suspect that if it hadn't been you, they might have already won.
He said, rejecting the thought with quiet resolve, though the shadow of worry still lingered in his eyes. Sensing the resistance taking root in her old friend like a stubborn tree in rocky soil, Sithra reached for her harp. It was a work of art carved by hands long silenced, adorned with roses like those on her amulet, a testament to time immemorial. Her age-worn fingers, touched by the years but guided by an undiminished force, glided over the strings with the precision of a fate weaver. The melody that bloomed seemed to rise from the very walls of the cabin, each note a thread of magic woven into the air. And then her voice, strong and clear, defied the weight of her years, ringing out as if she still danced in the prime of youth. Thauren's eyes welled up, unshed tears catching the firelight as the song's words wove a bridge between despair and hope.
But time sings not to those who burn, for the light was etched in skies infinite and high.
How could he deny something etched into melodies older than the bones of the earth, sung long before the birth of even the eldest he could remember?
The voice sustains, it echoes and so in wind and flame, a timeless song with no name.
Everything converged on that moment, and his mission stood clear before him, to prepare the new heralds for what fate had in store.
The wind would carry each fading call.
Again!
Cried two blue eyes, gleaming like curious sapphires in the window frame, jolting Thauren from his thoughts so suddenly he nearly fell off his chair.
That was the most beautiful thing I've ever heard.
Leora continued, her face lit by a smile that seemed to steal the sun's own glow. Sithra laughed, a sweet sound like wind chimes on a summer afternoon.
Didn't I tell you to go outside, girl?
Thauren laughed as well, rising with an amused sigh to open the door.
I am outside.
The girl protested in her defense.
This one is drawn to music like flies to honey, Sithra. I've given up trying to keep her still.
But of course she is. Like every Herald of Mirrors I've met in my long life.
The old woman replied, her gaze softening as she looked at Leora, as if seeing in her a reflection of something sacred and ancient. She pulled a rustic stool closer, patting the seat with a maternal gesture, inviting the girl to join them. Erebus followed closely, the massive black dog gleaming in the light, his tongue lolling from his mouth in an exhausted sigh after the morning run.
Herald of Mirrors? Who is Mirrors?
Leora asked, her eyes reigniting with the insatiable flame of curiosity. Sithra gently brushed the girl's golden hair, tucking a lock behind her ear with the tenderness of someone caressing a newly bloomed petal.
Mirrors, the weaver of waters, my dear.
Sithra began, her voice flowing like the very currents she described.
Is the first spring of every stream that pulses through Auren. It was she who gave life to all rivers, lakes, and swamps. Legends say her hair was blue, just like your eyes, cascading in ceaseless waterfalls like living torrents. During Ellora's song, she emerged radiant from the sea, and from her soft voice the Sirasar River was born, a shimmering artery that nourishes the continent, bearing the prosperity of food, transport, and trade. They say that wherever Mirrors' waters touch, life blossoms in bursts of color and sound, and for this, the river folk call her the mother of currents. Her echoes still resound in whispered tales told in taverns, where fishermen and farmers swear they've seen water beings of unearthly beauty dissolve into mist upon being approached. In every harbor, altars rise for sailors to offer prayers before challenging the waves, and the grandest of them lies in Thalen, where a majestic temple honors her name. It is because of her that we dance and sing during the Tide Festival, beneath the silvery glow of the full spring moons.
Leora's eyes widened like the full moons themselves, Her breath caught as she tried to conjure in her mind the image of that mythical figure, each of Sithra's words falling upon her like drops of enchanted dew. She drank them in, hungry for every fragment, unaware that these stories had already pulsed in her blood since her very first breath. Sithra continued, her tone gaining a gentle gravity.
It is important that you know her other face as well, for like the great sea, her fury is relentless. It was she who, in the old tales, created the Mirastral Swamp, summoning colossal waves to protect her sister, Arvana, from an enemy onslaught. The waters surged over the land, drowning the threat in a deadly embrace. And they say that echoes of her power still whisper among the marsh reeds, where the bodies of the fallen remain like stone sentinels, frozen in time, as if waiting for a call.
Leora leaned over the table, her elbows pressed into the wood, drinking in every word like a thirsty bird sipping nectar from a rare flower that only blooms at dusk. When the tale came to an end, her lips parted, eager for more.
But
She began. But Sithra, with a tender smile that veiled a shrewd wisdom, gently placed a finger over the girl's lips, silencing her with affection.
But you, young lady, were supposed to be outside. Now that your curiosity has been fed, go find your friends.
She added, her tone light but firm. Leora feigned a pout, her eyes sparkling with playful defiance. She swung a leg over Erebus, who had been lying beside her like a loyal shadow. But the dog, sensing the call to play, sprang up suddenly, lifting the girl along with him. And off went Leora, riding her improvised steed, laughter bursting from her like crystal chimes echoing through the glade. Erebus trotted proudly, sunlight gleaming on his black fur as Leora clung to him, while the sheep raised their heads, curious, as if they sensed that something magical had just come to life before their eyes.